when you open the door for somebody else.
Welcome in to the Vaccine Conversation with Melissa and Dr. Bob. We are back
Welcome, everyone.
for another exciting episode.
It's that time again for
I know.
another episode.
I know. I can't believe it's like 8:40 at night and I have all this energy. I'm usually like
I don't.
very tired by now.
I'm ready for bed,
You are? Okay.
to be honest with you.
Well, you can sleep through this episode because
Okay.
it is a medical doctory kind of episode. As you roll your eyes at me, you guys should see her face that she's making.
You can't say I'm rolling my eyes or people are going to give me bad reviews about how I'm so mean to you.
Melissa, I can't believe you
Jeez.
roll your eyes
My
at the doctor.
goodness. Well, all I know is it's some crazy times right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
And it's creating a very emotional response by lots of people. And, you know, whenever you have an opinion that's different than the masses on anything,
Yeah.
it certainly brings out the vocal negative people,
Yeah.
you know, the people that really have something to say.
Yeah.
And they want to be heard. They tend to all be negative. If you guys feel like writing a really good review that you haven't done before on our Facebook page, we've gotten some really, really nice ones for IEG or iTunes. Feel free to do it. I think it's kind of true what people say. It's either a really negative or really positive review where somebody takes the time to write it. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
But it's funny, you know, I was looking at some other podcasts over this last week, and all sorts of people are getting hit on their reviews.
Yeah.
Because if anybody talks about anything that's going on in the world today, you know, it's going to be polarizing. You're either going to piss somebody off because you do agree with it, you're going to piss somebody off because you don't agree with it. And really, it just goes to show that, you know, a lot of times people don't really want all viewpoints into all discussions. And what's nice about ours is that we keep it about vaccines, about the, you know, medical mandates, legislation, and these medical topics that have now kind of gone over into COVID a little bit, but it's all basically on topic, and that's where we stay, and that's where we will stay.
Right.
Because that makes it easier for people to not have to have conflicting viewpoints and then feel somehow differently towards us, which it's interesting because I think people forget, like, think about all the different religions people might be that listen to this. We come together about medical freedom and we instantly feel like you're one of us. If somebody's a medical freedom supporter or an informed consent advocate, we instantly feel like you're one of us. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your age is. I don't care whether you do or don't believe in God or what type of God you believe in. I don't care about your particular stance on hot topic social issues like abortion or being pro-life. These are things that don't come up because you're just happy somebody believes in medical freedom. I believe in medical freedom. Yes, we're instantly connected on that issue. Oh, I want to follow this person's page. Oh, I want to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
You forget that there are like 100 other things that you may differ on.
Right.
And if you happen to talk about any of those things, you're going to push away a part of your listenership because that's how polarizing every complex topic is.
Right.
And it's hard not to ever talk about anything else because it's life. And our social issues bleed over into our regular life. Our regular life has to do with social issues. They go into our medical issues, our freedom issues. It's all kind of tied in. But, you know, it's interesting. I mean, we have people listening right now that do not believe in God at all. And we have some that are very strong Christians. They could be Buddhist. They could be Muslim. They could be all sorts of different things and all sorts of variations. And if I start talking about, you know, Christianity is the only way, there are going to be a segment of our population that's going to actually feel offended by that, even if we agree on medical freedom.
Yeah.
And they're not going to want to talk about those things. They're going to look at us differently, which is why we keep our topics on one thing. But, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing a little more tolerance in our world for having the differences.
For all things,
Because we've had listeners for 2 years that don't know whether or not you and I believe in God and what kind of God they believe in. And if they found that out, that might change the way they looked at us.
Right.
But it never came up.
Right.
So they can totally be happy with us and love us. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like as long as you don't talk about the hot button issues, you can keep everybody happy.
And that's all about to change.
Well, I didn't even mean to say, I mean, that's not even what I was just talking about how funny it is that we have this huge, diverse crowd. The umbrella that we share is medical freedom. But within all that, we all have such very different views on life, how we raise our children, all different types of things. And you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
you don't have to agree with every single thing
Right.
that somebody you like on one topic agrees with. And I don't know why people tend to think, well, if you believe in medical freedom, then you better be attachment parenter. You better be liberal. A lot of these people might think that they're
gotta
liberal.
Be homeschooling.
You should be homeschooling.
Right.
You should, be anti-screen time. You
Right.
should be. There's a whole long list. You're going to live, holistically, which is you may be against Democrats because of what's going on with legislation with medical freedom. So now that comes back around, and now that gets messy and confusing.
Yep.
And it goes on this long list as if we're all going to agree on these 50 things, and then everybody else is the other side. But that's just not how it works, because the truth is we might only agree with all of our listeners on one topic.
Yeah.
And that topic is there should be informed consent for medical interventions.
Yeah, and think of how worldwide that is. I mean, there are medical freedom movements in every single country,
Right.
every culture, every religion. I mean, it's amazing. And so I don't know how many things there are that would instantly bond people together that way, but that's really something that could really, like if I met a medical freedom person from, from Nigeria, there'd be like an instant connection.
Right.
If I just met someone and they're like, yeah, I'm part of Nigerians for Informed Consent, and we're fighting mandatory vaccines in our country, and I just met that person 2 seconds ago, I would be like instantly attached to them.
Instant camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's I love how
Because
big
it's
and
a
how
human
global
right.
we
It's
are.
a human rights
Yeah,
issue. That's
yeah,
why.
yeah.
It's human rights.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage people to feel tolerant about all the other
About all the other differences that we have.
subtopics that we have to, in a time when we're very conscious of all of our differences, it feels like everybody wants to distinguish themselves. You're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. You're a white person, I'm Latina. You are pro-life, I'm pro-choice. You believe in this type of God, I believe in this type of God. It's like everybody wants to have a resume where they want to distinguish themselves in 13, 14, 15 different categories. When under all of that, we're human. You're human, I'm human, we're people, and we want to be able to have human rights. And I feel like we're in this part of society right now where it is just, there's zero tolerance for differences of opinion. You assume you have to unfollow that person, unfriend that person.
Yeah.
You can no longer talk to them because now you found out that they're a adamant mask wearer, and or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I would venture to say there are a lot of things we all disagree on. So with what's going on right now in society, don't be afraid to be able to allow different viewpoints, and don't think you need to change the way that you look at somebody. If you've been following them for their information on medical freedom, or if they're another parent that has been fighting this, then you kind of find out, tolerance is good. But yes, on that note, because there are so many other things going on, and because we have so many issues that kind of go into other categories, politics, social categories, mental and emotional health categories, because we've done that, that doesn't all fit into the vaccine conversation.
Right.
And even for many of our listeners, COVID didn't fit into the vaccine conversation until they realized it did. And hopefully they all came back around. But initially they didn't, which is what led to us removing some of our episodes on this initially, right? So Dr. Bob has told me that he doesn't really have a desire to really go into some of these other issues. But I feel we're at a place in history where people are waking up to the idea that there is such thing as data manipulation. There is such thing as regulatory agencies that are lying. There is such thing as political motivation using public health emergencies as a scapegoat, basically. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it play out. A lot of people who don't even know about the vaccine debate are seeing this for the first time on what I call the big stage, which is society as a whole. And to me, this is a very clear parallel to the vaccine debate, but on a much bigger scale. And I think for many of these people who began following me on my social media aren't following me for vaccine reasons. They're not following me for medical freedom reasons. They followed me for all my data and information on COVID. And that was more a political, societal, government issue. But to me, if people can see what's going on there and you're able to give them the other side of the vaccine debate, you have an opportunity to really open some eyes to what I call a very unpopular opinion. But but truth seeking, which is what a lot of people in our movement are fond of.
Yeah.
It's okay to be the outlier. It's okay to be a critical thinker to what makes you go against the pack. It's okay to not be going along with everybody else if it feels true to you, not just to do it, to be rebellious, but like literally if it feels true to you, because I'm a total rule follower. So that's the funny part. But lately I found myself having the unpopular opinion on some of these bigger issues. And I don't do it just so I can have the unpopular opinion. I do it because I have to believe in what it is that I'm, looking at, whatever issue it is. So Dr. Bob had the idea that, well, I don't really want to do it, but I think you should. And I've posted a lot on my own Facebook page and on my Instagram. But we're like, okay, well, what if under our immunity education group, like we back this idea that there's an offshoot podcast that I will do, and I will have my own guests and have different people on, and it will be about the social and political issues that we're talking about today. And it will talk about the fact that it's okay to be an outlier and what happens when the information that you're getting doesn't match the narrative. And I'll be bringing the same kind of facts I would bring here to other issues. And so I'm not announcing the name and everything yet because I have to register everything, but I'm going to do that tomorrow. So it's going to be soon. And hopefully if you guys like that aspect, because, in the vaccine debate, some of my favorite topics are the social topics, the taboo topics, the media, how we look at each other in this issue, and the human brain and human behavior. Because I was a sociology major. I like the idea of studying human behavior. So if you like that aspect and you're looking at what's going on in the world, you're interested with maybe the other side of it, the other story, maybe what they're not telling you, then hint, hint. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, hey, dude, wake up. I thought you said you were awake. Okay. So if that's interesting to you, then hopefully you'll join my podcast. And again, you guys know me by now if you're a listener to this. So you either totally dig my style or you totally don't dig my style. As I say, I'm either your cup of tea or I'm not your cup of tea. And if I am, you'll know what to expect and join me. And if I'm not, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, are you kidding? The only reason I tune in is for Dr. Bob's calm words. Then don't tune in because you won't get any of that, though I will have him on as well. And it probably won't be super frequent because, we're all trying to balance a bazillion things. I've got some other life detours happening that I, haven't shared, but that I'm dealing with. So this is just because I find all this stuff so fascinating. And I want to be able to invite other people to join that conversation, with me. And hopefully it'll be something that you like. So that's on my side. That's my mini announcement that I hadn't planned on giving, but that you told me to give.
I know.
I'm giving that. Yeah. And now it's your podcast announcement time.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited about what you're going to do because, I'm at the point in my life where I don't want to expand and put tons more energy to broaden the topics that we would talk about, and nor do I feel really capable of that. I can talk about vaccines and pediatric medicine all day long and have fun in that. But I feel like you could talk about pretty much any topic that you put some research into and you get the facts and the data and you see something's not right. You could talk about anything that you've learned about, and so, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how you'll take lots of different topics that interest you that you think the government is getting wrong or trying to mislead us on something, and you'll look at the data and then you'll share it and you'll talk about it. And I think that's going to be fantastic. So I'm thrilled that you're doing that. And we'll for sure keep doing the vaccine conversation. Your podcast probably won't be actually out there for another 2 or 3 weeks, I would imagine. So we're not sharing the title.
2 weeks by the time this airs.
Right. Yeah. So we're not sharing the title yet, but we'll share with you guys the title so you can all follow her. And we might not be doing as many vaccine conversation episodes in the next month or two. We'll do some, but we might not do as many because we have a film project we're trying to still do and put together and film some very, very well put together and thought out vaccine conversation topics.
Video
on film.
content.
Yeah, basically video, but in the podcasting format. So we're going to be doing that these couple months. And so meanwhile, you'll be able to listen to Melissa. She'll broaden your mind and, outside the vaccine conversation, maybe talking us a lot about COVID, issues, but
and
lots of
usually
different
something
issues that
controversial. I
affect
mean,
society,
usually
yeah.
something that's complex. That's
So
where
I'm
I
looking
find
forward
interest.
to that. Yeah. So, and what I've been doing, I actually already started a little side podcast of my own because it's actually very easy to do.
We should call it a sidecast.
A sidecast, yeah.
That's your sidecast.
Yeah, so it is called, so you actually have to put this title in exactly, searching it on whatever podcast platform you're using. You search A Tale of Two Sides, like print, the punctuation, a novel on vaccines and disease. And essentially it's an audiobook. The author on the book is John Philip Ryan, and you probably might have already seen the book on Amazon. There's johnphilipryan.com is a website, but it's A Tale of Two Sides, a novel on vaccines and disease. I'm basically reading the book as if it's an audiobook. But when you get an audiobook, you have the whole book. This is me actually reading one chapter a week. I'll be dishing it out to you guys for free, for the next, 40, 50 weeks or so, and you'll get one chapter at a time. You might have already read the book, but you might enjoy listening to the audio version just to sort of reabsorb a lot of the facts and details and information. And you can share it with people. I just did the aluminum one, and is like so fascinating just to read through all the data and the research, like in such a systematic way again. And so each chapter is basically its own topic. So you can share these individually with people that you feel like you want them to learn this one little thing about vaccines. They'll spend a half hour listening to it and hopefully gleaning from it. And you can too, and share it with your friends. And I will probably do like author discussion, like Facebook Lives or videos and podcasts. So it's not just me reading the book, but then a week or two later, I might publish like a half an hour discussion, like, as an author, like what did I think about that chapter, and, some of the, background and maybe some of my own personal insights into what went into writing that chapter. And so it's going to be fun, and I enjoy doing it. And that's, I guess, part of me really staying focused on the vaccine conversation. I'm going to probably just spend the rest of my life doing that and have fun doing it. And this is just one additional way to do it. So I'm excited about it, and hopefully you guys are too. So there it is.
So they get a little more of me, a little more of you.
Yeah.
On top of us together on this podcast too.
We'll keep doing this for, I don't know, until we win this conversation. But today's topic it's actually pretty short. Is partly to introduce, what we're doing, but I wanted to talk a little bit about hydroxychloroquine. You kind of brought this to my attention with this study, or not a study, just an article from it's coronavirus and hydroxychloroquine. What do we know? Is that the one that you sent me? No,
sure.
I think
one of them I did.
Is from BBC. I like BBC as a news source because they always seem very neutral. Very few hot button words, and very few political agenda words. It's all just straight facts. And
well, this has been, first of all, introing into this. This has already been its own hot topic.
Oh yeah, ever since COVID started.
Within the whole COVID debate.
Oh yeah.
Because initially, and remember I shared a video from a New York doctor who is treating his patients and was treating it. And Rudy Giuliani was actually the guy who had him on his show, and basically said he was combining the hydroxychloroquine with zinc and with a Z-Pack.
Right.
And that he was finding all the success with this. This was very early on. So it was like, oh my gosh, a cure's been found. This is right when New York was like exploding with cases. And we were hearing in the press briefings from the White House some information about using it, potentially using it.
Yeah, President Trump taking it.
Well, before he even admitted all that. This is like way at the beginning. And then all of a sudden the media sort of did this weird spin on it and made it so it's not safe, it's not FDA approved, there are too many side effects. And everybody's like, wait a second. this has been used on people in all these other different conditions for decades. So the safety data for the actual medicine has been proven.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily for use with COVID, but it's been proven on its own. And you've got all these doctors independently using it now on their patients that had severe complications and having good success with it. But because of the red tape, because of the administration issues, I personally talked to nurses and saw doctors from New York saying they wanted to be able to use it, but their hospital administration would not let them use it.
Right.
And by the time the hospital administration would maybe figure out it's an okay usage, we're now 3 months later.
Right.
All the people that could have maybe been helped or could have kept them from being put on ventilators or whatever, could have cut their ICU stays in half. We'll never know because administration got in the way. So this has been a huge topic of division. And then, a couple weeks ago, President Trump comes out saying that he has been taking it himself as a preventative. And everybody was like horrified to find this out. Just like, oh my gosh. And he's like, reminder people, this has been used for decades. So this is not a controversial new medicine.
No. And the Brazilian president, he was I don't know if he was taking it, but he claimed in a video that hydroxychloroquine is working in all places, and then that was taken down from Facebook.
So before you go into the medical stuff, what do you think about the political side of this? What do you think about the fact that I heard that Governor Cuomo was basically giving directives to not use it because he didn't want to go along with President Trump that badly?
Jeez.
So what do you think? What do you think as a doctor? What do you think about the political implications of making medical decisions with a political agenda and how that could potentially hurt patients?
Oh yeah, it's awful. Yeah, it's very frustrating. We've seen that.
You think that's what's going on here?
Well, I'm not sure. That's really hard to say because I'm not in a position where I would know. Just me being in my office, I wouldn't know. The whole reason behind hydroxychloroquine, why everyone got excited about it, is when they figured out that the SARS, COVID-2 virus enters our cells via the ACE2 receptor, angiotensin converting enzyme 2. It's a receptor on our cells, and the COVID virus comes along and runs into our cell and finds that receptor, and it enters our cell through that receptor. And when someone discovered that, everyone said, hey, well, hydroxychloroquine, we've known for a long time that hydroxychloroquine sits on those ACE2 receptors and blocks them. So therefore, that would prevent COVID from entering and infecting our cells. So, that sounds great. Maybe this drug would work. It's not like this drug kills the virus. It's not like an antibiotic or an antiviral where it literally is toxic to the virus. It simply prevents the virus from killing our cells.
And from reproducing, right?
Right. So yeah, exactly. So then they also discovered that hydroxychloroquine makes the inside of our cells less acidic. And the COVID virus likes things being acidic inside the cells.
Like all illness.
Right. And so by making the inside of the cells less acidic, hydroxychloroquine essentially raises the pH, which makes things less acidic. So that interferes with the virus being able to enter and replicate within our cells. And then thirdly, zinc, like you just said, zinc prevents the COVID RNA from replicating and creating new virus particles in each cells, in the cells. Hydroxychloroquine helps zinc enter the cells more. All right. So you have hydroxychloroquine. It does three things theoretically. Like the theory is based on how they know it works. It does. It helps prevent SARS from damaging and killing our cells, and therefore damaging and killing the patient. It doesn't stop you from necessarily getting infected. Like, I don't know if you can take it as a preventative to stop the virus from entering you and doing some replication. But the theory is it would shorten the illness, shorten the symptoms, make the symptoms way less severe, and help you recover way more quickly.
And they already had studies already in France and in Spain, were like two of the studies I think that they had about using this already. This is where, the doctor that I originally
Okay,
shared that video of,
okay.
that's where he had gotten this idea of this
Right.
combination. Was in one area they're using hydroxychloroquine and Z-Pak. In
Right.
another area, they were using
Right.
zinc and hydroxychloroquine, and he
Right.
put those together. It was in France, and it wasn't
Right.
Spain. I forget what the second country was. But they had these two studies that were already in March looking at the use of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't since then heard anything about a bunch of people being harmed by the use of it that were
I know.
COVID. Have you?
No, I haven't. So basically, everyone was excited about it, and everyone
Right.
started using it. But I mean, if we're going to be scientists, we have to do a clinical trial to make sure it works. Because the thing is, if almost everyone's going to recover from COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and then like if a whole bunch of people are taking hydroxychloroquine and recover, it's hard to say if the hydroxychloroquine is actually physically playing a role in that. So we needed the science. And so unfortunately, very sadly, kind of like what we just talked about with the in our other episode about someone doing a study in the wrong way that misleads people with the data, and then it ends up affecting policy, right? So what happened was some researchers published in The Lancet. They published a study, hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine with or without macrolide, which is a Zithromax, for treatment of COVID-19, a multinational registry analysis. We'll put a link to this on our resource page. They basically did a study where they tested a whole bunch of different people, 96,000 patients, hospitalized patients, 96,000. That's a huge study. And they tested some of them with hydroxychloroquine, some with just chloroquine, some with hydroxychloroquine and Zithromax, and then some without that. They did a control group, and they actually found the people that took hydroxychloroquine did worse, and they had cardiac arrhythmia problems. They went into ventricular arrhythmias. Some people died from that cardiac arrhythmia, so that they ended up doing worse. Okay, so they published that. Everyone started worrying about hydroxychloroquine, so the WHO stopped researching it. A lot of research studies were shut down. Everyone kind of went on pause and said, okay, wait, we need to figure out what's going on. Then the Lancet just retracted the study. Basically, there was a problem with the data collection and the data analysis, and the data was analyzed and controlled by like this other company, and the company wouldn't let peer reviewers go in and verify the data and kind of make sure it was all done correctly. So the Lancet essentially retracted the study. So now that we don't have this study showing there's danger from hydroxychloroquine and things can get worse. Again, this was all hospitalized patients,
Right.
not outpatients that are mildly symptomatic. Since they retracted it, the WHO has reopened research, and they're saying, okay, now we're moving forward with research again, and we are now going to have people do better clinical trials to see if we can then get a real answer. Because just because we know that's how hydroxychloroquine should work, we got to prove it really does. So meanwhile, the FDA has tied people's hands. That's like why the New York hospitals wouldn't approve the use of it, because the FDA is saying no. It's only for emergency use. It's only for people in the hospital, and if they're doing poorly, we're not approving it just for outpatient use and for use for people who are just mildly sick, and we're not approving it for prevention. And so a hospital administrator, I can see why their hands are tied. They are going to follow that kind of policy, and that's where the politics kind of comes into play. Is they're following the FDA policy. The question is the FDA being too restrictive on this? Should the FDA have kind of opened this up, more to people? As a pediatrician, I feel a little uncomfortable prescribing a medication like this. I've not prescribed it yet because I've not had a COVID patient yet. But if I want to prescribe this, I know I'm prescribing it against the FDA's recommendation and kind of against the standard of care. And you kind of put yourself at risk when you do that, not as just a doctor, but as a hospital administrator.
Have you heard prior to this a whole series of negative side effects or responses to hydroxychloroquine? I mean, before COVID.
No, before, no.
Because it's used for lots of different
Yeah,
conditions.
no, I have prescribed it for malaria, for, malaria prevention. Oh yeah, I've prescribed it. I've probably written 50 prescriptions of this in my life just for malaria. It can have side effects. No, none of my patients were ever harmed by it. It's been widely used in autoimmune diseases.
Was it something in the medical community that was like known, like
no,
oh, this is a risky?
No.
It was considered.
It's a very standard, straightforward medication for the uses that people have been using it for. So I've always suspected that if there's a drug that costs a few pennies like this, no one's going to make money off of this drug.
Right.
And our government and the part of our government that is supported by pharma would much rather have a very expensive antiviral medication be the answer that saves the world from COVID. I can see why the politics would come into play, and they would try to put down something like this in favor of a very expensive treatment, or let's not cure it too quickly because we need to get a vaccine going, right? And I can see that. I don't know that that's happening.
Well, these are the things I wonder. The
is,
doctor in New York that originally shared his magic remedy, he was like, this costs less than $20 for all these things. Yeah. And Rudy Giuliani was just like, oh my gosh, really? That's reasonable. So then it really felt like this was going to be the answer. This potential combination, it was inexpensive, and it had already had safety testing had already been done for all of these things individually. So there was really no risk of using them. It wasn't experimental. And then all of a sudden it just fizzled out. And then it became the opposite. It became people going, you're not going to use that, are you? Like, that's risky now. That's dangerous. And you have to wonder. I kind of wonder what the political motivation might have been behind that.
Yeah. There is there's a study of 40,000 people, in 4 continents, Europe, Africa, Asia, and South America. Oh, they're leaving out the United States. They're doing more trials. There are large trials, so we should have a good answer pretty soon. But I feel like if we're going to practice good medicine, there has to be studies that show some benefit, I think. That's just how we've always done medicine, honestly. As much as we'd love to have a simple, easy, mild, benign drug be the answer, it has to show that it's better than placebo. I think you're right. We have the safety data. So you're right about that. There should not be the worry of heart arrhythmias that prevents people from prescribing this. But I think, again, we need to show data that it helps. So I don't know if I would take it if I got sick. I haven't been presented with that situation yet. I feel like, vitamin D, zinc seems promising, although I don't know that they have a good clinical trial on zinc, but from the mechanism of action of zinc should help. The chloroquine could help the zinc help even more.
NAC is also
I've been
being
taking
studied.
NAC, to up my glutathione.
They're doing a study on NAC with COVID patients right now. It's an active study.
Yeah, and so I'm doing all the natural things. I don't know where I stand with hydroxychloroquine just because I'm not the kind of doctor that would be taking care of tons of those patients yet. So I don't have the experience with it yet. But you know what? So for me, the jury's still out, but I find it just frustrating that this retracted study seemed to put a big wedge in the progress we were making towards this. But kind of like we said in the last episode, this started, 6 months ago now.
Yeah.
How can we not have hydroxychloroquine data? You mentioned a couple studies that you've seen. I haven't looked for studies yet or seen people put out good studies on this yet. So I'm surprised that we don't. And you're right, there could be political motivations, but hopefully, seems like from this new BBC article, people are now reopening the studies. And so again, we should have good data soon.
The thing I think, and we've mentioned this briefly, but the thing I think that upsets me maybe the most about this whole entire process is that we have not had our health experts. We have not had the regulatory agencies come out and tell people how to prevent serious cases.
Yes.
Don't prevent yourself getting infected necessarily, because that might not be preventable over time.
Right.
That might not be preventable.
Right.
The most important thing, it doesn't matter that you have a positive case. You have a positive mild case, and that doesn't impact your life negatively. It's the complications that cause the problem and put people at risk. Why aren't our health officers and our health representatives, why aren't they, and our government representatives, trying to give as many tips and tricks and advice as they can about how to prevent a serious case?
Right. We've said that. Yeah, we've said that before. Yeah.
We have.
I mean, I can't believe the news isn't saying, okay, everyone get out and exercise. They're saying stay in home, stay inside, and we'll mail you a free check and just watch TV all day. Every person who is overweight, especially people who are severely overweight, they should be immediately. They should have started 4 or 5 months ago, taking significant steps to eat healthy and get outside and exercise and lose that weight, because we know obesity is a huge risk factor for your case of COVID to be much more severe. Get your, all those same measures will help get your blood pressure under control.
Right, blood pressure.
Right. If you're stressed about losing your job and the economic collapse, get outside. Being outside helps stress. Exercising helps stress. Everything that you could do for your mental and physical health is going to directly reduce the severity of your COVID. We know that, and we're not hearing any of that.
We haven't heard it even a single time.
I know. I know.
Daily press briefings, and not a single time are our leaders letting people know, here is the latest and greatest research we have from the best minds in the world.
Right.
And they have concluded that if you supplement with this particular vitamin, if you reduce the amount of this in your body, if you, whether it's take out alcohol, take out sugar, things that we know in a holistic lifestyle are true. Trust me, other people know this. Why aren't they helping people to educate them so they can come out of quarantine healthier than they were before, not sicker? I mean, obviously, I know many of you listening are like, because they don't want us to be healthy. They want us to be sick because being sick is profitable. And I agree with all that. But honestly, in a health crisis, like, how about you try to help us with the health part?
Yeah, it's like they're just wanting us to just sit there until the government can save us with a medication that's going to be maybe really expensive, is going to make a lot of people a lot of money, and a vaccine that's going to save us. They want us to just sit around and wait for that. So we're dependent on that.
They're literally saying, hope you don't die. That's the advice. Hey, hope you don't die.
Yeah.
Wear a mask.
Yeesh.
Don't go anywhere, but hope you don't die. We're in this crisis. Like, it's like a fingers crossed thing. Yeah. It is unreal to me how people aren't sitting there and going, well, tell us what we should be doing.
Yeah.
I don't know about food and nutrition and supplements. Is there something I can do to make myself healthier? Do I just have to be afraid of ever going around people ever?
Yeah. And all my neighbors, friends who we've been hanging out with and socializing with, they're kind of the like-minded, healthy, outside, eat healthy and exercise and be active and, not have a high stress lifestyle. And those are the kind of people that are doing those things. And they're the same people that, we're not, not wearing masks, and
it's
not,
embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
As much.
People that don't get sick usually are the ones that are not going to be too worried about COVID, because they probably take really good care of their bodies, and they make health a priority. But you know what? In a global health crisis is what they called it, even though this virus turns out might not be quite that deadly at all. But even in it was their responsibility from day one. Are you guys supplementing your vitamin D? Make sure we've got so-and-so here from the county, blah, 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 is reminding you that if you're not getting adequate sunshine, that you need to be supplementing your vitamin D. If you have a deficiency and you have blood work recently from your doctors, make sure you're checking your levels. That has shown to make a big difference in complications. Or are you getting your exercise? Have you gotten your how come they don't have funny videos on TikTok where they're encouraging people to get out and move? Like, instead of stand apart to stand together or alone together, how about we're like, get fit together? Or let's get healthy together.
You know what? I 3 times this week I've driven by our park, and there's like an outdoor yoga exercise team out there that there's like, 15, 20 people kind of, distanced, but doing like a group, exercise in the park, which is really exciting to see.
I mean, the thing I have a big issue with is they keep trying to use these slogans like beat COVID.
Yeah.
Make sure you stay indoors so you can help beat COVID or help stop COVID. That is a statement that is impossible. You can't beat COVID. You don't beat a virus. You don't stop a virus. You make it so you don't have a serious case of the virus. So once it goes through the population and the virus stops, because guess what? It's going to do it on its time, not your time.
Right.
That you're not a victim and you're not a statistic.
Yeah.
So you don't beat it. You have to get healthy. And that's never, ever been the focus. This whole thing, now that I think about it, has never, ever focused on health.
I know.
They have never focused on health. How are people not more pissed off about that?
Yeah, they should be.
There's so much people just don't know because they haven't done the research. Obviously, it's not their fault.
Yeah, I'm now that I know so much more about COVID, I'm a little less scared of it than I used to be because I told you I was kind of worried about, what happens if I catch it? Am I going to be a severe case? I'm a little less worried because I've heard some about, the local hospitals, they're not over ventilating and, maybe hydroxychloroquine would be a good idea. I don't know that there's evidence to take hydroxychloroquine like as a preventative, like start taking it every day for months and months and months and months. And then when you finally get COVID, it's going to be better for you. I don't know if it would even work that way, or that could be more toxic on your body to take a drug like that for months and months. So I think if people are going to use it, you're really looking at just getting on it as soon as you're sick, right? You get symptoms, you get on it, you get tested sort of thing. But I can't see using it as a preventive. But what things that I've been doing, eating healthy, taking lots of fruit and vegetable supplements, taking Jocelyn's tonic, taking NAC. We just got some zinc. Started taking zinc, so I have enough of that in my body in case I get infected. Did I say vitamin D? Eating healthy, less sugar, less ice cream.
Yeah, please.
Not less alcohol, but maybe I should do that too. But who knows? Those are things I'm doing. I've lost weight. I've shed 15 pounds, I would say, during these few months. Like I've taken that seriously. And so, I'm less afraid now. I feel like if I don't live in that daily fear, when I'm seeing patients, I don't have nearly as much fear of like being close to them and examining them, and which is nice to have that fear kind of taken away.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll keep hearing more on this and more on potential treatments, I guess, as time goes on. But obviously some things are solid, like we just said, there are some things you can do just to keep yourself healthier. Yeah. And that's the most important thing.
Well, we'll have fun connecting with you guys on our various podcasts. Sidecasts. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to yours because it's funny. I'm going to sort of be your recorder / producer as you get started with the equipment and stuff. And because it's all like electronic equipment and stuff. That, that I need
girls
to
don't know.
Help you with,
girls don't get that stuff.
To plug it in and push, record and stuff. So,
but if I had to cook a meal or do some dishes, that would be my responsibility, right? Because I would understand that much better.
No, but I'll have fun like watching you do that and listening in and kind of seeing where you branch out to because I'm very excited about that. And
I'm either going to piss off a lot of people or I'm going to gain the respect of a lot of people. You know what? It could vary episode to episode. And I really don't know. I'm guessing already. My reviews are probably going to be 5 stars or 1 star. Yeah. Which is fine because honestly, if it's only 20 of you, if you're my people, come join me. I don't care how many people are there. Just make sure you're one of my people to be there. Yeah.
So we'll put word out on this podcast when yours, for
when
sure goes up and then catch me on A Tale of Two Sides, a novel on vaccines and disease. Listen in and enjoy. And I don't know when we'll be back with you guys. Won't be too long. Yeah.
Soonish.
We'll do it soon, but Anyway.
All right. Stay healthy. Take care. And we will catch you next time.
On the vaccine conversation.
information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice. Always consult your healthcare professional for information on vaccines and infectious diseases.